Kadosh, good morning. I wanted to share with you a beautiful idea that I saw in the Parashah, which has to do with the end of the Parashah. We know the Parashat Naso is actually one of the longest parashiot. It is the longest parashah in the Torah, with 100, I think it's 167 or 177 psukim, right? It's like a very, very long parashah, right? Very long. And what happens is that we repeat ourselves so many times. The Torah is so intricate, it's so incredible that we can learn halachot and halachot and halachot on a little kotz of a yud, on a yod, a little tiny, little point on the yod, sticking up, sticking down. What do we learn from it? And all of a sudden we come and we repeat ourselves for the tribes, that one after another we come and we mention the tribe that they brought it, this one, and every tribe brought the exact same sacrifice. So therefore, why was it so important, right, that we had to mention it and again and again and again? And you already know what's coming, right? It's like you already know what's coming. Somebody once, there was a big rabbi that he was giving a shiur to Baalei Teshuvah. And when he was telling them about, speaking to them, he went and he told them, you should know, right, what is it? How strong is the Yetzer Hara? So when he was speaking to them, he went and he told them, right, he said, okay, how many of you guys seen a movie? So I think at the time it was when the Titanic came out, the famous Titanic, that it sunk and this and that. So they went and they said, okay, so how many? So somebody went and said, I saw it 5 times. So he asked him the following question. He said, tell me something. Did you think that the second time you saw the movie, did you think the Titanic wasn't going to sink? Did you think it was going to stay up? Like, well, what happened exactly? Like, why do you have to see it again? So he was trying to bring over a beautiful point, which the beautiful point is that in essence, something that you love, you'll do it again and again and again and again. And that's what happens. Something that a person, mamash, that they love it, they will just do it again and again. And that's why it's just so important for us to understand. So who's the one that comes and speaks about this? Rabbeinu Bachyai. Rabbeinu Bachyai in Perek Zayin Pasuk Pei Daled says, ומה שהיה צורך לכתוב 12 פרשיות כולם מעניין אחד בקורבנות הנשיאים. Why did I have to say 12 times everything to do with the korbanot of the Nesiim? Like, what's going on exactly? So he says, and look how many gufei Torah and everything that he says, why? Ki mechabedai achabed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to give kavod to the people that fear him and kavod to the people that respect him. Ki mechabedai achabed. So he comes and he says, this is the korban of Naso ben Aminadav. And he says, Hikrivu kol hanesiim, ish ish yomo, ziyeh kitzur b'chavod achirim. If he was just going to come and say, listen, you know what? This was the korban. And the second day was brought by this guy, third day by this guy, fourth day, and it doesn't bring the entire korban, you're minimizing in the respect and the kavod that you're giving to each of them. So therefore, says Rabbeinu Bachyai, we purposely came and we mentioned every single one to give them kavod. But now he says furthermore, ve'od, and furthermore, which means like this, every single one of them brought the exact same sacrifice. There was only one difference. You know what the difference was? The kavanah. The background, the concentration, your intention, what you thought of had to do with your tribe. And therefore he comes and it says, to show you that even though they were the exact same, but they were completely different, because each one had their own intention, their own concept. And that's why he comes and he says that even though everything was the same, it had the same measure, the same weight, everything, but the concentration, the intention was completely different. And therefore, it's actually brought down, right, that the Midrash says everyone actually had a different kavanah. Meaning it's already brought down in the Midrash Rabbah, Yud Gimel Yud Dalet. Every single one of those princes had another korban, it was a different korban. It was the exact same materials, but it's not. Even though you use the same ingredients, it was a completely different concept. And many times you see it. Sometimes you could see, right, I could give a woman ingredients to make a cake. And I could give 3 different women. And they'll come and they'll make something completely different. But then you say, 1 second, but it's the exact same ingredients, the exact same material. And the answer is each one depends what they put their focus on. And even though it's going to be the exact same, they could see it differently. One will start putting the focus on how everything should be with a decoration and put more emphasis, and this less emphasis in it. And it's the exact same ingredients. And that's what happened by us. But Kam Chachamim, and they say something beautiful. What does it mean? The Midrash says, Me'et Nisiyei Yisrael, that he brought it from the Nisiyei Yisrael. It said that they all brought it from their own, and it was like one korban. But says the Marzav something interesting. It became a korban tzibur, meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes and says, each of you gave respect to each other. I'm going to let you bring it on Shabbat. Why? It's not considered anymore an individual sacrifice. It's considered a communal sacrifice. And communal sacrifices are brought on Shabbat. So in order not to stop and make a hefsek, an interruption between all the sacrifices, he told them, even bring it on Shabbat. Because the second that you bring it as one whole, one entity, it becomes a community. It's not individuals. It's not 12 individuals bringing a korban. It's one community doing it. So now, Kam Chachamim, and they say, now we understand also what happened by Har Sinai. In last week's parasha, we spoke about the campings, if you remember, right? That means we had the numbers, and after the numbers, we had the campings, where each one camped. And it says, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu came on Mount Sinai, there were 22,000 malachim that they came down, as we read in the Perek of Tehillim 68, which is Av Shavuot, Rechev Elokim Livotayim Alfei Shinan. And all of them were made digalim in different legions. So they were all organized in different legions. As it says, Dagul Merevava. It's a pasuk in Shir HaShirim. Once Bnei Israel saw that, they yearned to do the same thing. They wanted the same thing. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm going to fulfill your wish. And if I'm going to fulfill your wish, you're going to have your own, right? You're going to have your own digalim. So comes and he says like this, according to what we just mentioned now, right? Why is it that way? Why is it that we wanted separate legions and HaKadosh Baruch Hu listened? He shouldn't have listened. He should have said, you guys should all be one entity, one unity. Why did he do it like different legions? Usually we always say achdut. What does achdut mean? Everyone together. No. Not everyone together. Right? That's not achdut. So he comes and he says, right, and especially that he comes and he says that we actually asked for this, and that's what we wanted. So therefore, why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu going to give us this then? So he comes and he says like this. The answer to this is that even Bilam understood the concept of the Digalim. The Gemara said, the Midrash says, Bilam looked and he put their eye on them and he saw that he couldn't touch them. Why? Because of the Digalim. Because each person had their own campings. Now the question is, why is it that the Digalim was so important? Because they knew their fathers, their forefathers, and their grandparents. So he comes and he says like this. The Ikar of the Digalim is that every single tribe had their own strength, their own individuality, their own greatnesses, their own flaws, as everyone has. And therefore, the purpose of the Digalim is Diglo Alai Ahava, which means that it was going to be for me to love me. Not like the ones that it's only just for organization skills. It's not for organization skills. So therefore, the concept is that every single one of these Digalim, like the flags, for example, when they had their own flags, you think a flag was just a flag? It meant something. There was a symbol behind it. It told you what was that shevet, what was behind it, what was so important about the tribe, what were their greatnesses, what do they have to focus on in life? And that's what Rabbeinu Bachyai says in Parashat Tetzaveh, to do with even the colors of the stones on the Choshen Mishpat. On the Kohen Gadol's breastplate there, it was written, every single tribe, and they all had their own stone and their own color. Why? Because each one was unique. Each one was special. And each one was completely different. And therefore he comes and he says, every malach has their own shlichut. Every malach has their own messengers. They are messengers. And therefore they come and they give permission to each one to do it. And nobody will ever try to touch another malach's shlichut, their own messengers, because they know, I have my job, you have your job. I cannot do your job and you cannot do my job. And therefore they come and notrim reshut ze lazeh lagdish liotzram. The angels come and they give permission to each other to sanctify the name of God, to glorify the name of God. And that's exactly what the Shvatim wanted to do. The Shvatim wanted to realize Shevet Binyamin are completely different from Shevet Yisachar. And Shevet Yisachar are completely different from Shevet Zevulun. One of them have more of a netiyah of learning. One of them has more of a netiyah of business. One of them has more of a netiyah of teaching. One of them has more of a netiyah of, each one has an inclination in order to do something. And therefore, what was so important was is that every single tribe, when the Bnei Israel saw the angels, how they were so organized, but not because of organization, that they realized they understood the mission of each and every single one of them. So then they said, this is what we're yearning for. This is exactly what we want. So therefore, according to this, we actually now understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not want us to be everybody together under one roof. It says in the Mechilta, once HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, he made the 12 different paths for the 12 different tribes of Bnei Israel. And the 70 dates, Keneged the Shivim Zekenim. The Gemara also says that the land is built upon 12 pillars. Why is it 12 pillars? Yatsev Givulot Amim Lemispar Bnei Israel. It's a Gemara in Chagiga Yud Bet Amud Bet, which means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the world built upon 12 different pillars. Each pillar is in a different place. They're not one place. If you put the entire building under one pillar and you put 12 pillars together, the building will collapse on all sides, right? Because you only have the support in one side. Each one was unique. Each one was completely different. And that's why there's 12 mazalot in the firmament as well. Every single month has its mazal, it has its constellation. And that's why we have the entire world was built upon that. Every single shevet is parallel to one of the mazalot. If you remember, we once gave shiurim, but they were a little bit deep, that every single month was parallel to one of the shvatim. And we spoke about Yosef, that Yosef was Tishri, right? Now Tishri was the scale, and what was the connection? And then we were going back and forth, and it was incredible about how, like every single tribe had their own. The Bnei Yisachar speaks about this all the time, about every single tribe was parallel to one of those mazalot, because there's a connection between the month and that tribe. There's a true connection there. And we have to understand that connection and what's the reason for it behind it. And therefore, come Bnei Israel, and we just have to understand that that's the exact same thing that happens, whether it's to do with the Bet HaMikdash or whether it's to do with everything that we have. Something very interesting, it's brought down. The Sefer Charedim. Sefer Charedim, he took all the mitzvot of the Torah and he divided it according to the body parts. And he says like this, he says, even nowadays that we don't have, right, at the Bet HaMikdash, right, we don't have the Bet HaMikdash, he says like this, he planted us in different parts of the world, and when we come and we all pray towards Yerushalayim in the Bet HaMikdash. Doesn't matter where we are. So we're still like those tribes. We're still like those banners, that we hold up the banners very, very high. And we actually come and we put our attention towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What we're trying to understand, though, according to this is that there's a very big misconception. We think that according to the misconception that we think is that all of a sudden what happens is that we think that unity means we're all together. So I'm going to have to take in one room an Ashkenazi, a Hasidi, a Chabad, a Satmar, right? A Sfaradi, a Chalabi, a Moroccan, everybody, Yerusha, everyone together. And I'm going to tell them, you all have to become Jewish. You all have to become one. The answer is, that's not called unity. The answer to unity is that every single one of Bnei Israel, they're special. And they have special attributes, right? It could be that the Ashkenazim have a special power for the love of the Torah. And they're there, the Hasidim with their love in general, right? That they do everything from Ahavah. Certain type of Litaim, maybe with their fear, right? Depends how fearful. The Sfaradim, maybe with a Tmimut, with how innocent they are. And they just do everything bitmimut, just innocently. Every single sect of Judaism, we have our own specialty, our own brand. Let's not forget how special we are. And it's not the wisdom by saying you have to become like this and everyone has to become the same, because that's not unity. Every single one has to take their mission and take it forward. Imagine you take the army and you tell the Chel Aviv, you tell the pilots, right, the Air Force, now you're going to go together with the foot soldiers. And then you go to the naval commandos. right? The Chelayam, and you're going to tell them, no, you have to become foot soldiers. And then what happens? Right? You come and you tell the snipers, the Tzalafim, you're going to become foot soldiers. What's going to happen is you're going to have 1 million foot soldiers, but you don't have an army. Because an army is required to comprise from all different aspects, to attack by air, to attack by sea, to attack by land, to attack from far, to attack from near, everything. That's what you need. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs us as the Tzavah Hashem, the army of Hashem. Our mission in life is to remember that by being the army of Hashem, we're special the way that we are. We don't have to change who we are, but we have to do our maximum to become better and to become closer to Hashem. We have to respect every single Jew, and we have to teach them, and we have to tell them, Notrim neshut zelazeh. We give permission for each of us, and we give them the permission to continue their Avodat HaKodesh, because I can't fit in their shoes, and they can't fit in our shoes. And that was the mission behind the Parashat Nisim. Every single Nasi brought the exact same ingredients, the exact same korban, but the kavanot were completely different, because each one had the intention for their tribe, and that was a completely different world. B'ezrat Hashem, I just hope that we should be able to internalize this message in order to become be'emet biyachad, together, in understanding that we're all together but different, in different people. And that's like a family. You take a family, it could be that we all have the same genes and the same genetics and everything that you want, but every child is separate. Every child is different. You have one that's much smarter, one that's much quicker, one that's a little bit more easygoing, one that gets angry quicker. Every single person is different, but that doesn't mean that you're not the same family. You're all the same family. So we just have to internalize that and realize that we're all brothers, all going for the same outreach, for the same goal of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbat Shalom. Have a wonderful Shabbat.